Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Two and a Half Salesmen. I'm your host Mario, together with my phenomenally looking host Julio. Hey Julio, you just look younger every time I see you, man. What are you eating?
It's just the bathing in the blood of virgins that's doing the job, That's really what it is.
The lavender and donkey milk. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special episode today. With us is our good friend Christian from a Great White North, also known as Canada. So Christian is a top performer. He's been in sales for a long time. Also, former Google engineer, and he just got an exit, like a 9-figure exit to Accenture in the industrial IoT space. So Christian, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Before we start, I have one quick question.
Yes.
Two and a Half Salesmen. Which one of you is the Charlie Sheen and which one's the Alan?
I'm definitely not Charlie Sheen. I'm an angel, so it's gotta be Mario. It's gotta be Mario.
Don't let my wife hear you. Cool. So today's episode is we'll touch on Chat GPT and how you can leverage it in, well, let's just call it B2B sales, and we can touch the AI part and we can touch the SDR part of it. I know I had a fair amount of discussions with Christian regarding Chat GPT, so let's open the floor. Christian, do you want to give a little bit of intro? Just talk about the mindset of using it, and then we can go into kind of a little bit of details, right?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Let's kind of segment what we're talking about when we talk about Chat GPT, because there's actually several platforms being developed with the same sort of larger language model type systems. Another one that I really like to use as a comparative is Google Bard. I'm not sure if you guys have had a chance to use Google Bard. The difference between the two is that Chat GPT is an offline language model that they're constantly training. As you can see, certain things have been closed. If you ask about certain conspiracy theories, it's like, I can't help you here. And then there's Google Bard. And what Google Bard is doing is it's actually traversing in real time the live internet results right now. So one such example of this is, say you're a BDR and you're looking for a top 100 list, because Mario, you and I were talking about this yesterday.
Yeah.
You could feed Chat GPT a company and you say, I want you to act as a market strategist for me. Here's the company. Find me 50 companies that are very similar for my Dream 50, Dream 100 strategy. Now, if you do the same thing in Google Bard, you will see different set of results. Why? Because Chat GPT is constantly monitored and trained like a little child, being, helicopter parented by OpenAI and Microsoft now, and basically directing what they're doing. And Google Bard is traversing the real-time internet results. And so it will be a lot more valuable for you as a BDR to build a top 100 list using Google Bard and maybe comparing the two different result sets.
Right.
Yeah, I actually didn't try it. I was actually literally touching on it right now. Is it available already in Europe? Because it might be just in North America. Because it won't.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but what I would encourage everybody watching this to do is pay the $14.99 USD a month for a VPN service and just VPN into Seattle, Texas, whatever, create an account. Sure. So I flip on my VPN. That way I'm invisible to the corporations anyway, and they can't use your IPs for things like marketing to you, and then make the requests off both different platforms.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to do that for sure.
One of the cool things, well, one of the prompts that I used, and it really helped me, is having, and I use this in Chat GPT, so I haven't used Bard, right? I would, it goes something like this: list me 10 problems a certain either CTO or CFO or whoever in the specific industry is facing. And then what I would do is I would say, flip these in a first-person sentences. And then what I would do, like a third prompt, is add frustration to these sentences, like two buddies on a coffee. So my biggest takeaway from that, and this is a prompt that I love using, is the sound bites, the 2 or 3 phrases that are filled with emotions, like I am struggling with, I get stuck at, stuff like that.
Okay, very interesting. I mean, personally, I'm gonna be quite silent this episode because I've been like the old person that's just kind of doing things the analogic way, and I basically only use ChatGPT for research, as you mentioned, but I haven't even gone in as much details as you have. So definitely need to try more with the prompts for sure.
One of the it's kind of an emerging set of technologies right now, this idea of a digital assistant. And to the point of the company we exited to Accenture, these were essentially digital assistants that will help people on the field level identify when multi-million-dollar downtime is coming. So you see these events in the news, oh, this refinery exploded, this pipeline leaked, this water leaked in and created this environmental impact. Well, these digital assistants today can act as boundaries and barriers for people avoiding making mistakes. So abstracting that to sales and business development, if you use it for research, that's one thing where 5 years ago, you used to pay a consultant to come in and do that research for you. And you would take the bet that the consultant you're paying has made better decisions than you have. And I think even before we started this recording, we were talking about how many startups are in really interesting situations today because they're trusting and leaning on a consultant just because they're afraid of taking a particular risk themselves and putting themselves out there. And so Chat GPT can fill that void now with large language models.
But can you give us a practical example of
I can give you several examples the way I used it to just make shortcuts, right? Like very silly stuff. So this is silly, right? So if I'm consulting with a company, one of my deliverables is a sales playbook. What I would do is I would put in the basics of the company, what the playbook is for, and just say, generate me table of contents for this playbook. And then it will be based on my very large input, it will generate a table of content. And some of the things I can fill in manually, some of the things company already has, but some of the things I have to do as a consultant. And things that used to take me, like I had templates, but no company is the same, right? Like I create a playbook in less than 7 days, man. It is that efficient, that fast. Just as Christian says, this is an assistant. It saves a whole lot of time.
That's a good, yeah, that's it's crazy, like those simple things that you could do, and I'm just probably typing and doing things myself, right? So
well, imagine having a very junior virtual assistant that is sitting somewhere, wherever, and you're giving him or her just instructions. Hey, do this, send this email, write me this, generate this. Basically, you can use Chat GPT to do that for you, or Bart, if you have access to VPN.
No, makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense.
I want to piggyback off that because there was a comment made about it being a junior assistant or a junior, VA or something like that. I think a lot of people don't quite realize how powerful this stuff is. Right. So we have all these fears of AI taking over the world, right? We have movies like Terminator. It goes on.
Matrix.
It's already the Matrix. It's already here. We just didn't really kind of click in because we have to abstract Chat GPT out of what it is. It's a large language model processor, meaning it's been fed the aggregate data of all the language that humans have spoken, have written, etc. Now, what is the master key for human interaction? We shouldn't be worried about Chat GPT hacking into our banking institutions, hacking into pipeline companies, etc. What we should be terrified by is that it's already got the master key, language. The way that we communicate as humans and we build trust is language. So the question becomes, what happens when you take a Chat GPT, it's trained, it's got the master key, which is language. You put a robotic skeleton in there and you put a synthetic skin on top of it. How's that going to perform for building trust when it knows your preferences better than you do? I know you're all getting Facebook ads when you go on Marketplace and you're like, what the hell? This is something I said to my wife in confidence. How am I getting an ad for hair replacement? Right? And so, you
This
get
is
into an interesting-
just for our audience. This is not based on a real life example.
I'm not sure about that, but go on.
It's already here. We just haven't fed it the prompts to be able to get into it. We haven't fed it the prompts to be able to break into these things. But when it first released, you had people asking Chat GPT questions like, how do I build $1 million business? And then those people did it. And now they have $1 million businesses. The limits to this thing's capability are your own ability to ask questions. The sum of your entire life as a human, and especially as a salesperson, is the questions you ask. Yes. And so what's a prompt you can ask Chat GPT? Hey, I'm approaching these companies at a time of economic uncertainty. I'm approaching the chief financial officer to talk about these features and benefits. How would you turn those features and benefits into value propositions based on today's environment?
Or better yet, generate me questions that I can ask.
I was going to say, exactly. Generate questions they can talk about. Yeah. Like just to uncover this specifically. I have a question based on this. So obviously, Chris, you tried them both. So how would you rate ChatGPT versus Bard then?
When we're talking about rating, what am I rating it against? Like efficacy of the results, real timeness of the results?
I would say, I mean, real timeness, I think if you're not, an idiot salesperson, you can just do that on you can prepare yourself beforehand for things, right? In most cases, not all, but I would say if you're to put efficacy, let's say you just want the most precise research, the most precise questions, the most human-like situation, what would you say? How do they compare, basically?
They're both very close. The difference is one of them, again, is helicopter parented and fed data by OpenAI and Microsoft. So the result set is kind of tainted with ChatGPT. With Bard, it's also real time. So I'll give you an example of this. When I was building market strategy to penetrate certain oil and gas companies a few months ago, I would say, give me the top 50 companies that are the same as this ICP of ours. And I put the same prompt into both. And what I found is that there's a tremendous amount of M&A activity happening in oil and gas where, this company gobbles up this company, gobbles up this company, and they're always moving back and forth. And so ChatGPT would give me that list and it would be old. It would be out of touch. I'd ask for the same research list from Bard and it would be considering the M&A activity that recently happened. Now, here's where this kind of gets interesting. I started treating ChatGPT at the same time like it's a real person. And I would say, hey, ChatGPT, I just looked up these results. It turns out that there is M&A activity and this company is no longer this company. Can you correct yourself? And it corrected itself. But I didn't tell it how to correct itself. So the question becomes, is ChatGPT real time? Because it was able to correct itself once it was checked. And it said, hey, sorry, you're right.
Well, they say it's cut off at end of 2021. The knowledge is cut off end of 2021, right? That's what they tell us. Well, we can go into conspiracies very easily here.
I'm just saying, my experience with it has been that if you treat it like a person and you correct it, if you go, hey, this is actually incorrect based on today, it will correct itself in a way where it'll fill gaps that you didn't ask it to fill.
Interesting. But but because I've also seen videos where you ask ChatGPT to correct itself on something, she does, but then if someone else asks the same question, she won't. So she just corrected herself for your benefit. So because that's another actually question I had is, will Bard also keep in store what you're trying to teach it? Because ChatGPT will, right? If you have the same chat where you teach them specific things,
in the same session.
Keep them. In the same session. Yeah, in the same session. Yeah. Is it the same for Bard as well?
They both have to. So if the large language models, if they're trained, that means that every single prompt that you give it, every single calculation it's making, it remembers every calculation previously. Right. So all of us are sitting there feeding the beast. Right. Every prompt that we're all making, it does save the session, but imagine we released an AI or we have a child, for example. You want that child to have the best knowledge possible. And so that child's going to learn no matter what. You swear in front of that child's going to pick up that swear word. Now, that's why training comes into play. So Chat GPT being managed by Microsoft, largely with the funding that they've received, means that Microsoft is doing what's called the training. So they can add what are called training data sets in there, and they can remove results and they can keep training it. But it's like, imagine your kid comes home and says something absolutely stupid. Well, you're going to sit the kid down and you're going to train that kid and say, don't do that again. The next time that kid hears it, it's like, wait, dad said that this isn't right.
Sure.
So who's dad?
Oh, okay.
That's the question, right?
That is. I mean, look, we had Chat GPT for some time now, right? Jasper AI, formerly known as whatever it was called before, right? Before they named it Jasper. Then you have Copy AI, you have Lavender.
Jarvis, it was called Jarvis.
It was called Jarvis. Yeah, I just blocked that. But they were all built on ChatGPT, either ChatGPT 1 or ChatGPT 2 or ChatGPT 3, whatever model it is. Like they were latched onto the API and just sucking, they just put a skin on it. But what I'm seeing now is and then I will get into my favorite topic these days, and you both know me to use my favorite phrase, that is the rise of silent sellers.
I knew it.
But okay, so all three of us are very hardcore on cold calling. Like I know that for sure. What I'm seeing, especially with ChatGPT 4, and I don't know Bard's capabilities, is that you can put in different models on how to write an email, then he can write an email based on whatever input you give it. Okay, so imagine doing that, writing a 6-email sequence just based on whatever research, whatever input you give it, and then sending those emails. So now executives, instead of hundreds of emails a day, will get thousands.
10,000, yeah. But also look, I've looked at 7 different generators plugged into ChatGPT of emails, and they're bloody horrible. They literally write an email like, "Hey, I noticed you like red wine. How do you source your leads?" I'm like, what the hell does that mean? You know, like, so I don't think for emails we're quite there yet. I don't know. Have you seen some applications of this, Christian, that you thought were particularly interesting?
So what Mario is talking about right now is actually the most interesting application, where you can feed it a template. So for example, shout out to Justin Michael and the Justin Michael method and all that stuff. You can type in Justin Michael's method and say, hey, here's a framework I want you to follow. Here's the people I'm messaging to. I need this many emails to follow this particular framework.
Nice.
So
nice.
again, you train it, you tell it how you want to behave.
Yeah.
But now here's the problem. To your point of 10,000 emails, 80% of the reps using Chat GPT fucking suck at writing emails to begin with. Hey, I'm rocking Pareto rule just to be respectful here. That number is probably a lot higher, but I don't want to alienate your audience.
Oh, no.
The point is,
always unfiltered here.
How many reps do you know that are taking their personal time to read books? How many reps do you know that are keeping up to date on things? Most of them, this is a conversation we had offline, most of them are just trying to feed their families. They're just, most people in life are just trying not to get fired.
True. They just want to work until 5 or whatever. Well, in US is until 9 p.m. I guess, but most people just want to do a 9 to 5.
Yeah. And so if you're one of those people who takes pride and passion in what you're doing, this is like giving you the best steroids in the world.
Yeah.
Now you're worth 2 of you or 3 of you or 4 of you if you can get your prompts down and you can time manage yourself well.
Okay, look, one thing that I think maybe I'm playing like devil's advocate here a little bit, because my style is very Italian, right? Which is, I want to stand out. It's either like by annoying people almost, like, or just being too quirky. And the problem I had with ChatGPT is that the part it sucks the most is humor, right? And my emails are usually full of humor, or like quirky things, etc. Even my scripts would be the same, you know, like my script says you want to throw your phone out the window in the PBO that Mario hates. So that's the part that I'm struggling with, is like, how can I don't feel it's got more personality than I do. So what should I do in a case like this?
Can I take some, Mario?
Yeah.
Because I would play devil's advocate to that.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
am not a funny guy.
Mhm.
I am not inherently a funny person. And so for me, I'll feed Chat GPT prompts. Hey, make this funnier. Not funny enough. Make it funnier. Make it funnier. And I find myself cracking up. It's actually helped
Really?
someone like me who's more robotic in their behavior and more process oriented learn what proper humor looks like. But here's
So
the thing.
but does it
Nothing
work?
replaces authenticity. Dude, I'm a robot sometimes. So humor for me, like I'm like Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy. Humor just goes over my head sometimes. Like I used to get made fun of for being super literal.
Okay,
And
fine.
for me, this has given me a training set that I can sort of look at and go, okay, that's what humor generally looks like. The thing
Okay.
is, someone like you, 73855 rule, I'm watching you on this conversation. You know what it is about Italians? You guys are very animated. You understand the 73855 rule inherently, unconsciously. 7% of your communication is the content of your words. 38 is your tone of voice. The remaining 55 is your body language. Now, you can't tell me that when you're on call with somebody, you doing this and modulating your tone of voice while you're communicating has like a zero impact to that conversation.
Oh no, massive. Look, one of my prompts at the beginning of the call is, look, if it's not relevant, you're never gonna hear my weird accent again. And most people are like, no, your accent is not weird. Or they're like, yeah, where are you from? And then, like, again, standing out. So absolutely. And that's the part that I get. That's what you're saying though. Like it still feels unauthentic. However, one thing that you both mentioned that I think makes a lot of sense is, for example, I write a fun email and I could just ask ChatGPT, can you write me 5 orders that sound like this one? And then instead of going crazy trying to be creative, I can actually do my best to make it work that way.
But again, my advice here, Julia, would be just use it as an assistant, right? One of the things, and I mentioned the rise of the silent sellers, but it's the lazy reps, right? So what reps will do is they will feed whatever. It doesn't have to be Chat GPT 4 per se. It can be Copy AI or Jasper, Lavender, whatever, and they will feed it. They will get the emails. And they will freaking copy paste those emails without even thinking.
True. Yeah, but also look, to be honest, I mean, we've been talking about different ways of doing selling for 70 years, and people are still doing the same. Hey, this is Giulio Segantini. I sell this. How are you today? So, this is still taught, So, oh, it's about tonality. Well, yeah, but if your script sucks, you can get the best tonality in the world. It's still going to be dog shit, right? So,
I mean, we can talk about cold calling all day.
yeah, we always go back there. Basically,
we always kind of touch on it. Just
indeed.
I think the whole point of these digital assistants, and no matter how many digital assistants you get, as a salesperson, the real self is always shining through. So if, to your point of the silent sellers, the lazy reps, those that are just copy pasting, that energy that you're doing the things that you do every day with, no amount of technology will mask shitty energy.
Oh, 100%.
Sure.
100%. I love telling a story. I don't think I've said it on this podcast. I was at a giant, back when I worked in media startup, I was at a giant conference in Portugal with thousands of journalists, and there was a panel, and I remember the guy from Washington Post was always pitching, you got to do video. Chatbots will save journalism. Go with something for every year, something different, right? Which is shit. So they finished the panel, and this old guy, like super old, like he's seen everything. He gets up, takes the mic, and says, paid content or free content, no one wants to read shit. And just he didn't do a mic drop, but he was too polite. He just gave it to a person. Everyone just goes, to your point, if it's crap, no one cares.
Yeah, you can only put so much lipstick on a pig.
Yeah, putting a lipstick on I love that. Putting a lipstick on a pig. Yeah.
That's true. That's true. That's true. Interesting.
Okay, so Christian, what are your let's be a little hypothetical here. So where do you see this evolving, especially in context of what we do? So sales, so specifically B2B sales, right? So where do you see large language models like Bard and Chat GPT going / evolving in the future / usage, right?
In sales, I would say, have you guys ever seen the crossing the chasm diagram? Are we allowed to share things on here? Like, I don't know what podcast format.
Yeah, of course.
Because it's, bear with me one sec here. So the law of diffusion of innovation.
Yeah.
This guy right here.
Oh, well, let me just share. Allow the sharing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This is a first. No guest that's been on this podcast has ever shared anything. So this is a new experience for us.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
So this guy.
Yep.
So I think my hypothesis today is we're starting to see kind of the early adopters maybe come into the tipping point here. Now, what happens when the early majority and the late majority start to pick it up? I'm getting emails from organizations like Gartner. I'm getting all kinds of emails from organizations that have no business advising on sales, starting to suggest how to use AI because it's hot. The moment something gets hot, that means it's starting to like cross way over here. Now, the thing is, most reps still aren't touching this. But let's say we go out a year and a half, and most reps are using this religiously. All kinds of companies are releasing their additional digital assistants. I mean, we've seen SalesLoft, Outreach, Gong, Zoom, like everyone is releasing some generative AI technology. So that's coming.
Sure.
Yep.
Again, you're trying to put lipstick on a pig. So if you guys recall, Mario, you'll recall when we used to do math with a piece of paper and a pencil.
Hey, I was born then.
Man, you Italians look so young. All right, so math with a piece of paper.
He's 84 years old, man. He's like he was born just after World War I ended. Julio was born.
I was one of Mussolini's generals. Okay.
They must have not got you for war crimes. So listen, if we're all using something, right? We all use calculators. We take them for granted. Very few people know how to do math with a pencil and paper anymore.
True.
And so what I think is going to happen is there's going to be a period of AI prosperity for a couple of years, right? The people that are those top performers that we talked about that can make the right prompts, that actually imbue it with a sense of energy, excitement, passion in their day-to-day when they're cold calling, when they're making the prompts, right? Their fundamental goal is service to the market and service to their customers. Those people will take off. They will hit the stratosphere with their success levels because they're not treating their leads like processing activities. Now, what'll happen is the rest of the folks will figure out how to treat their leads like processing activities the same way that we all use calculators and we process numbers through there versus the intentional pencil and paper that we used to do. And then these large language models will eventually reach a state where they're speaking perfectly, whatever perfect looks like, right? It's like they're saying exactly the right things. Well, if everywhere you go, everyone is saying exactly the right things to you, that's a homogenized experience. And now this is where it becomes super important to be authentic and maybe to be a little weird and to be a little fringe and to be different. Because if everything is perfect, the imperfect becomes the new valuable.
Yep.
Yes.
And so I guess my feedback to anybody watching this and the advice here is like, recognize that this is a tool. It is not a be all end all. It will not supplement the fundamental skills that are required to be a great communicator. It will not supplement the great things. It will not supplement the skills required to be the kind of person that can build trust when sitting across the table from another person. If you can run excellent discovery, if you have a good sense of understanding empathy with the person that you're in front of, if you imbue it with the right energy and service, I don't give a fuck who you are. Technology will not get rid of you.
Yeah.
But those of you that are sitting here going, I'm going to process, I'm going to start a fly-by-wire agency right now, and I'm going to get as many clients as I can at $2,000 a month. And oh my God, I have 30 clients and I got to serve them all. You're assholes. You're diluting the market. You're not serving, you're processing and you're taking.
Yeah. There was a phenomenal sentence. If you guys know Kevin Kelly. So Kevin Kelly is one of the futurists. So having a large team trying to predict what would be the trends. And in one of the books from Impossible to Inevitable, he says that that's a one sentence. You have it here? Oh, awesome. Great book. There's one sentence that's kind of stuck, is that AI will, or whatever he said, robots, or like whatever we consider, will never be able to replicate human experience, or to be precise, the creation of human experience, which is basically what you're saying. That's authenticity.
We have a heart.
Yeah.
Human beings have a heart. Sorry to cut you off here, but human beings have a heart. And you know what I think? You ever walk into a room and you're like, oh, you can cut the tension with a knife? How are you sensing that?
Yeah.
Which organ is sensing that? I think it's your heart. And I think when you're in the room with a shitty person, your heart can tell you there's something wrong here, because they just recently found out your heart is an electromagnetic, what's the word? The organ has electromagnetic capabilities about 6 feet out from where you are, right?
Yeah.
It radiates an electromagnetic frequency that's actually measurable.
It is,
and so
it's called mirror neurons. This has been known, especially in coaching. I think, Giulio, if you remember from the art and science of coaching from Erickson,
Probably don't.
Probably don't. All right. So when two people are sitting next to each other, I can actually feel what you are feeling in real time because of this. Yeah, this is actually this has been scientifically proven. Yeah.
Okay. And so to that point, I don't think, this is my hypothesis, I don't think you can ever replicate the human heart.
Yeah.
With technology. You can replicate a pump. You may be able to replicate even an electromagnetic frequency going in a particular direction, but we have some senses that we do take for granted. And those are the senses that are responsible for creating trust between people.
Yes. Giulio, you seem puzzled there, buddy.
I have a much darker view of this, in the sense that I don't think eventually AI will be able to do exactly what we can do. What it might not be able to do, and this is to both your points, is that there was a stupid statistic recently that if you spell something wrong in the subject of an email, you're getting higher open rate, because they know the email is, they're thinking the email is not automated, right? And that kind of goes to what you were talking about, is that in a world where no one was going to make grammatical mistakes, in a world where all the emails will be perfectly tailored to the ICP pain points, etc., what will happen is that the different is going to come back again. So someone says something a bit stupid, a bit funny, and maybe AI will be able to mimic that as well, but there'll be like a different layer of authenticity. Like, I'll give you a very practical example. Comedians have become more and more aggressive, right? You got Jimmy Carr, like Louis C.K., they come out with shit that is just
Jimmy Carr was always horrible.
Well, but if you think about it, comedians 50 years ago, 100 years ago, they weren't doing that stuff, you know.
No.
And it's getting more and more. It's also because, and the more politically correct we are, the more we thrive towards it. So it's always going to be a balance that if we are in a perfect world, then imperfection will be what people are craving, right? And I think that's what both of you are saying is totally correct in this sense.
As usual, we have gone off topic. as we tend to do in these.
You just
I don't think we've gone off topic. I don't think we've gone off topic, because if we're trying to teach reps the value of Chat GPT, there's something to be said for understanding the inner game that you need to use these tools effectively, right? And you fix the inner game, you solve the outer game immediately.
Yeah.
I can give you all kinds of outer game tactics, and there's tons of books up here and tons of sales trainers, topic for another discussion, that feed you outer game. But that outer game is incongruent to the character that's executing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True. I agree.
Very
I agree.
correct. All right. So let's wrap this up. Let's do maybe a little bit of like final thoughts, and then Christian, every guest that comes on, if you want to do a little bit of promo, that's completely fine with us, and we encourage it. So let's do a little bit of final thoughts. Julio, wanna kick it off?
Well. So look, from my perspective, actually, what's been enlightening from this is that I've realized I'm probably sitting on the sidelines here, and I'll become one of the laggards if I don't try and use it as much as I possibly can. Like I don't even use it for content creation and ideas, etc. Probably things that could be quite well suited for. So my takeaway is just, it's not going to go anywhere. You might as well get proficient, otherwise you will get left behind, basically.
My biggest takeaway, or my biggest message at the end, is basically what Christian said kind of here at the end, is that you can create all sorts of emails, you can create all sorts of LinkedIn outreach, whatever you want, right? But if that is not congruent on what you are inside, who you are as a person, that will show.
Sure.
And that will show 100%. And no way you will be as successful as you can, whatever success means in your life.
Sure.
Well put. My key takeaway is, interestingly enough, spend a little bit less time on Chat GPT. It's like in this conversation, I'm sitting here suggesting ways that people can use it, but it's not a replacement for character, right? It may make you look a little bit more talented, but talent will take you to places your character can't keep you.
Nice. I like that.
Excellent sentence. All right.
I really like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Christian, want to do a little bit of promos before we sign off?
Shameless. You folks can find me at
always.
You folks can follow me on LinkedIn. I'm very responsive to messages out there. Recently started taking some one-on-one coaching clients. I'm leaving it small, less than 12. I've got room for a few more right now, and we are looking for our next battlefield at Revenue Drivers. If you have a deal size of at least 100K ACV, you're selling artificial intelligence, especially if you're selling into industrial places where process engineering is super heavy, and most salespeople have like a 1-year barrier of entry because they have to learn the process or the subject matter expertise. We're the folks that you call. We will very quickly figure that out. We have contacts in our Rolodex that can tell us about virtually any industry, whether it's waste management, oil and gas, mining, you name it, the big unsexy industries where there are massive deals to be had. If you want some whales hunted, www.revenuedrivers.ca. Thank you for having me.
Nice.
Cool.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys, and have a good week. We will see you in the next episode. Ciao.
Ciao.
It's been an honor, guys.